Hello and welcome back everyone. I'm Emily Harris, author of STEAMY Historical Romances, and today I have a very quick Nanowrimo update for you. I failed. End of update. No, not really. Stick around, I'm going to tell you all of the wonderful things I discovered this Nanowrimo, even though I did not actually win this year. So stay tuned. In that brief little intro, I did not end up completing my 50,000 words this year for Nanowrimo, and that actually makes it the first in 4 years since I started Nanowrimo 4 years ago that I have not completed. However, I don't really feel too bad about it because there were a lot of interesting things that happened this month, as well as a lot of things I was trying to keep track of. So it may have been a little bit of too much on my plate, probably was, but all in all, I think it came out pretty well. So here are the things I want to chat about. First, why did I not make my 50,000 words? Well, to begin with, and I think I mentioned in a previous video, I was still working for the first half of the month on my old work in progress. And I hoped to have that complete by the end of last month, and it was just about complete, but I still had editing work that was not done on that. So that took up a good portion of my time. And I am just one of those people that has a really hard time clicking back and forth between projects. In general, I can't work on multiple projects at once, or at least I have not found the way that I can do that yet. So that's one thing. Secondly, I'm trying to decide what I want to talk about first. Why don't I talk about my books first, and then I'll talk about everything I mentioned in the Corseted author previously. All right, so the books. I began work on that 4-book series I had mentioned that I wanted to get started on for possible submission to a small publisher. I'm not sure yet if I want to do that or just publish it myself. We shall see. But starting in on this series was interesting because I ended up having to look at 4 books at once, mostly 2, the 2 I'm most interested at the moment, the first and last, to make sure that everything kind of corresponds as it should because they are all on a concurrent timeline. So what did this do for me? It totally threw out the window everything I have been saying for years about how I don't outline books in full ahead of time. I go act by act, and I don't work on multiple projects at once, all of those lovely things out the window, because these books are so intertwined given the concurrent timeline that I kind of have to work on them all at once to some degree to make sure I am meshing things properly where they need to be meshed. There's not a huge amount of overlap in the books because each one has its own story going on, but because my characters are all very much involved with each other, the female characters are all sisters, and then the male characters are, a couple of them are related, and they're all friends. So there is a good amount of overlap, and I wanted to get that correct. So what I ended up doing, which normally is very difficult for me, but turned out okay in this case, I outlined the books. Now, these are very bare bones outlines. Basically, I went through and jotted down ideas for all of the scenes that I know I'm going to need in the books. So I think about 30 scenes per book. And I outlined in full 2 of the books, plus a little bit of the other 2, miscellaneous scenes of the other 2. So that was an interesting experience. That whole thing was very interesting for me. And I am really excited to see how that plays out now in the actual creation of the books. So that is my update on books. Now, the corseted author stuff that I talked about before. Did I wear my corset? Yes, I did. Was it helpful? Yes, it was, in the way that I mentioned about keeping me on track as far as timing and making sure I get up and move, things like that. Did I correctly anticipate when my ongoing health issues were going to kick in? Actually, yes, I did. I was quite proud of myself, perfectly to the day, which meant that I was miserable for about 10 days in the middle of the month when this all kicked in. And that meant although I did my best, I tried really hard, but I could not keep on wearing the corset during that time. So I fell off the wagon a little bit for that. When that all ended, which thanks to the adjustments I made in my diet and being very kind of mindful of that, all of my issues kind of ended several days earlier than what I expected, so that was a plus. And once that happened, I was able to get back into my corset. So the ultimate result of my corset was I did get down to about 22¼ inches for roughly 4 hours, 4 hours during the day, which was not as good, of course, as I had hoped to be by the end of the month, but all things considered, that was pretty good progress, I thought. So that's how the corset went. The diet changes I made went very well. I really enjoyed that and have been enjoying continuing that in the hopes that my issues will lessen over time and I get a better grasp on that. So I am hopeful about that. And the exercise portion, didn't do quite so hot on that. I basically just stopped. I didn't do it. But I will say, now that was the planned items I had wanted to do, the exercise routine that I had and the yoga. I did that for a little bit, didn't really keep up with it. But I do have to add in that it is my normal habit, because I don't keep a car, to walk everywhere. And it is very common for me to walk up to 4 hours at least one day a week, and at least an hour 2 more days a week. And then the other days, in general, I take at least one walk, usually about half an hour to an hour. So I have a bad habit of not counting that in as exercise because it's just what I do every day. It's my normal routine. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I should be happy about that I am getting that exercise. So I did do my normal walking routines this month and got several hours a week of walking in. So there you go, that's a plus. All a great setup, I think, to continue great things into the final month of the year and into next year. So thank you very much for going along this journey with me. And I am so looking forward to December and all of the videos for next month, because I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite books from this series and all the little intricacies and tidbits that go along with it. So keep an eye out for that. Until next time, everyone, happy reading.